Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Pride Perspectives, a conversation with the community. It is my pleasure to be welcoming you from, from my office here in Cluett, and we are excited for the amount of parents that have joined us tonight with my conversations with the communications office. This is our largest, which is not surprising with Parents Weekend coming up, but our largest Pride Perspective that we've hosted. So thank you so much to all who have registered and joined us for tonight. And for those of you who don't know, I'm JP Burlington, Director of Admission, class of 1995. And we've been hosting these Pride Perspectives since the spring. And for those of you who are new to these, you can always find the recordings on our YouTube channel, along with many other great videos created by the school and the students. We will be having this fall series of Pride Perspectives moving on with the Trinity-Pawling Advantage, which will be hosted next week, which is also not only for our current families, but it's also our virtual open house. So we're hoping that it'll be a big event for many of our prospective families. The arts department will be hosting a Pride Perspective in late October. And then we have a couple more scheduled for November, which includes the Junior College Day, which Mr. Harff and Mr. Mead will be hosting. And then there will be a couple of others throughout the fall, end of the fall into the winter. So please, head to our the Trinity-Pawling website, and you can see everything that's scheduled moving forward. So once again, thank you so much for joining us tonight as we talk about the year that has been thus far and what is to come in the coming months, even though we all know that it is quite unknown at this time. So without further ado, I'm going to pass the baton off to Headmaster Taylor, who will start off the evening.
Thank you, Mr. Burlington. Good evening, everybody. Special thank you to the faculty and students who are with us this evening. Look forward to chatting with you. But special welcome to the parents as we sort of officially begin our Parents Weekend celebration this evening with this Pride Perspectives. As Mr. Burlington said, we began this series back in the spring, pretty early on in the spring, just initially to give the very first update on what would be a rapidly and ongoing changing dynamic. But we've continued them on pretty regularly. And, you know, I'm so caught up in the day-to-day now that, you know, it's on those moments when I'm walking around like I was just a bit before joining this Zoom meeting, and just reflecting on last spring, reflecting on last summer, and specifically reflecting on sort of putting together the schedule for this year. And of course, you look at I looked at the template of what we had planned to do. And certainly this weekend, you know, jumped out in terms of our plan that was created last December and January, and Parents Weekend. And so, you know, in June, I'm sort of saying, well, what could that look like? And you know, being an optimist, I said, well, you know, perhaps, you know, there will be some sort of you know, situation in place that we could all gather back together. But by August, it was becoming more and more clear that that wasn't going to be the case, or by July. So we began planning for this virtual Parents Weekend. And at that point, sort of envisioning, okay, we could figure out a way technologically to have all the teachers and all the parents, you know, meet virtually via Zoom or some other vehicle to sort of replicate what you're used to. And no sooner did I throw that out as an option than the IT people said, "Are you absolutely crazy? There's no way that would work." I'm sorry, I'm being called by a robocall. It's happening multiple times a day. And said we certainly can't support that many meetings virtually. So we pivoted and created a way for the advisors to be able to create a virtual meeting with you all that will be one of substance. We all, as advisors, have gotten specific feedback from each of your son's teachers about the past 6 weeks of classes. So we're prepared to give you a pretty specific overview of how these 6 weeks have gone academically for your son, and then outside of the classroom as well. So those will be scheduled, as you know, for meeting Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday morning. So it's not too late if you have not yet signed up for that. We are scheduling that through our Pick a Time software. It's www.pickatime.com, and you should see emails that give you the specific instructions, and then you can select a time with your son's advisor. And perhaps before we sign off tonight, JP, you could go over some of that again. But we're looking forward to those meetings. And to really, sharing the pride of how these past really 7 weeks have gone. We are in our 7th week of having the students back on campus. This is our 6th week of classes. And I cannot extend my appreciation and gratitude for the collective work of the student body. I mean, when we gathered at the beginning of this journey back at the end of August, early September, we talked about the importance of the common good. We talked about the importance of everyone having to do their part. But we've had a good run. Every day is a new day, and we're grateful for every day. As I've become accustomed to saying, at the end of each day, every day is a victory. And but every day has only been victorious because we've had great cooperation from everybody. And kudos to the students who really have stepped up and been wearing masks, really be working on the discipline of the distancing. But wearing the mask, which is a huge piece of this, and even outside, the boys are wearing masks when they could be coming into closer proximity with one another, and that's a huge help. And then just the overall collective cooperation with the various different new things that we have in place, the smaller classrooms, the directional flow in buildings, and people are really abiding by that, really respecting what needs to happen in both of our dining halls, Scully Dining Hall and the McGraw Pavilion, which has been converted for lunchroom dining as well. And so it's just been a collective sense of cooperation, and certainly an equally strong set of kudos to the faculty, the health staff here on campus. Everybody has just done a tremendous job, and I can't thank everybody enough. We've had an overall plan that's worked very good thus far. It's a very dynamic plan, as I explained to you over the summer and wrote to you. Lots of hard work from the faculty went into creating this plan. Currently, we've been able to conduct 865 tests. That includes the tests that people came back with. But we're in the midst of our surveillance testing. We test 20% of our population every week, every Wednesday. So we had 90 tests that were conducted today, and we typically will get the responses to those tests, sometime early to mid Thursday morning. And all the surveillance testing has been negative. And it's, it's been an affirmation of the week-to-week progress, day-to-day progress. We're doing more surveillance testing than I would say than some schools. A lot of schools are doing it 10%. We feel good at the 20% number. We're also testing in that 20%. We're including the residents who live here on campus and day students. And I know when we met over the summer, when we talked about the plan, we talked about the fact that we have day students and boarding students, and that creates its own set of conditions that we needed to work into the plan. And the day student populations, the students' families have been wonderful in abiding by the plan and the Pride Pandemic Pledge that all the students have signed on to. And really what all this leads to is an affirmation to what we all know is true, and that is learning happens best when it happens in community. And that is true of all education, as I've said before, but it is particularly true of the Trinity-Pawling educational experience. There's so much of the role that individual relationships play in the success of this learning environment and the learning experience here at Trinity-Pawling. And those relationships are, literally are the mortar that binds everything together here. And we could approximate that last spring to bring the school year to a conclusion remotely. It wasn't the same, but we had already had 2/3 of the year building up. And so we were just really committed to getting this going and really working to build on those foundations of relationships this year. And so every day that we have a successful day and a healthy day and a day building the common good is a day that's building and affirming the importance of those relationships. And that's been critical. And the extra help, the work that faculty are providing to the students outside of the classroom time is certainly, a tremendous catalyst to the learning and growth process here at Trinity-Pawling. And that happens in community. So, with that, I'd like to pivot to Mike Weber, who member of the science department, and Mr. Weber, if you could talk a little bit about, what it has meant for you to be teaching back here on campus. We're all doing a bit of hybrid teaching. We have students, even though we have students in our classroom, most of us have students who are also not in the classroom and are joining us virtually. So, Mr. Weber, if you could talk a little bit about sort of personally what it has meant to you to be back doing what you do so well here on campus and in community, and how you've adapted to take on this new sort of hybrid approach to teaching.
Great, thank you, Mr. Taylor, and good evening to everybody. If you have your own daughters and sons that are at home working remotely, or have had them perhaps over the spring and now perhaps again, you know that this has been a tremendous challenge. I always say to small groups of kids that I get with, just in my classes on the field, the football team, the baseball team, when I have a chance to get a small group of guys together, even with the senior class as well that I work with, it's always about, we are so fortunate. We are so lucky to be where we are. We are fortunate that we're safe, and we're fortunate that we're with our friends and continue to foster these relationships. From being home that any model of hybrid teaching presents a challenge, and that challenge requires adaptation. And the adaptation is from the school, the adaptation is from the teachers, but the adaptation is also falls a little bit on our students. And I believe that TP has done an incredible job of overcoming this challenge and getting us, specifically as staff and teachers, to be ready to work with your sons. And that was through a lot of training. I know at the end of the summer, I was here for 2 weeks straight, making sure that, that I was ready to be with your sons. And that has allowed us to be present with students in face-to-face, but it's also allowed us to engage and share and collaborate with those who are working remotely. For those parents who are unaware, our new technology, we are well equipped for this task. And we have primary desktop, we have smart boards, and we have a monitor that literally will bring our online students into the classroom. Again, allowing those who are remote, but also those who are together, an opportunity to problem solve and speak together and collaborate on different aspects of the curriculum. Luckily, the population here is smaller, but we are fortunate in that we can be distant, but we are fortunate that those remote students, and I know from my chemistry class and my AP environmental class specifically, I think one great victory that happened earlier this year for both of those classes, where I shifted to bringing either my laptop or my phone into the lab. And here I am, speaking to you from the chemistry lab at TP, but bringing those students here virtually, setting them on the countertop with one of our students. And we've had great success in our young men that are present being able to bring that work alive and to those who are working through the screen. And that's given our students the ability to work hands-on, even while being remote. And sometimes what I've done is had them do things at home where they can go outside and they can be a part of an environmental project. With regard to extra help and so on, I think actually we've had a better opportunity this year than any to work one-on-one with teachers. I know from my perspective, my students will regularly just shoot me a parent square or a student square and say, hey, Mr. Weber, can you Zoom with me at 7 o'clock? So whereas I would normally have them maybe over to my house or meet in the dorm, or we meet all in the classroom. Now I'm finding that more one-on-one relationships are being built. So we've done a lot of work. I'm just going to go into something else that I wrote a note on something here. We've done a lot of work, and I don't know if you're going to hit on this, Mr. Taylor, but to teach discourse in discussion. And I've been privy to be a part of a lot of small groups. Because of our size, we've been able to work in smaller groups. That's allowed us to be present in our discussion, smaller chapels, smaller groups outside of chapel. And the main ingredient to that discourse is listening. And what I've seen in our young men over the past several weeks is I'm seeing them open up. I'm seeing them share stories. I'm seeing them be vulnerable. And in the end, from these smaller groups, from one-on-one extra help, smaller classrooms, remote classrooms, and just meeting with teachers on their own time, those sharing of stories build threads between us. And those threads ultimately build relationships. And from that, I'm finding that the students that are capable of doing that and opening up and being vulnerable and sharing, that they're fostering greater self-confidence, greater self-advocacy, better speaking skills, and that's adapting them to what is going to come down the line in the future.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you. And I'm going to talk a little bit about some of those skills as we head into the discussion of the winter projects that'll happen, after the boys depart for Thanksgiving. But, all the students here, certainly have benefited from your tutelage in so many different areas in the classroom, on the athletic field. But a unifying aspect of that tutelage has been the slow clap. So, Mr. Weber, if you could describe the role of the slow clap to our parents who have joined us this evening. I'm sure they would love to know this so they can participate along.
Yeah, so I told the students that I began the slow clap back in the 80s. And when I was a student, and my friends would say to me, Mr. Weber, or they'd say, Webb, why are you always so positive? Why are you always so upbeat? So I brought this to the students. I I've been bringing it to the senior class for years, but this year was special because we brought it to the entire student body. And I told them that this is a memory that they're going to have that's going to be lasting, that they'll probably do on their own and with their families at different times in their life. They'll probably bring it to their, their workplace, their classrooms, whatever groups they are with in the future. But the slow clap is a very slow clap. If you can, I don't know how to describe it any differently. But basically, if we do this online here, gentlemen, it would, there'd be a clap, and I'm demonstrating here, there'd be a clap, and then you would take a breath, and then you would clap again. So we will do this here remotely for our parents, and I will begin it. And I see JP laughing there, so he'll go right with me. So in a 1, and a 2, and a 3, and we'll clap. And then it kind of picks up, and usually a few kids start yelling and cheering. But that's one of the things we started one of our first weekends during orientation. Actually, it was during our Olympic day on Saturday, and we had the whole student body clapping at once, and it was a good time, good energy.
Good. Absolutely.
That may be more than you wanted.
Oh, that's perfect. That's perfect. I think, we'll give a slow clap to the parents for their trust in the school, and slow clap for the students and the faculty for their hard work. Mr. Weber talked about the discourse that's been going on, which, is part of the fabric of any community. It's the dialogue, the discourse, the trust, the vulnerability that allows us to open up and be honest. And we've had a lot of opportunities for that. Father Lennox is going to talk a little bit about that here shortly. And the students, I want them to comment on it. But, we all read this summer the book Just Mercy, and that has been certainly a topic of some of our discourse on topics of social justice, how we can live in a community with justice, recognizing what is right, what is wrong, but fighting for what is right, and really standing up for those things that are wrong. And doing so individually and collectively. And that's been wonderful to have those discussions about that. I mentioned the winter projects, and the winter projects are one aspect of this larger practicum for civic leadership that is really built on the foundation of discourse, built on the foundation of adaptability, of perseverance, of creativity, and ultimately vulnerability that leads to greater self-awareness. So we created the practicum 5 years ago. This is its 5th year of really being open to everybody. Everybody does participate in it. It's a graduation requirement, and there are 3 different components. It's the interdisciplinary winter project, the global collaborative challenge, and the senior independent project. And we're going to talk a little bit about the winter project and the global collaborative project here this evening, but because it'll be those 2 components that your sons will be doing during the remote period beginning after Thanksgiving. And we've done this during this 2.5-week period for the last 5 years. We've used that block for these types of projects, but we've done them here. And when we were putting together the schedule, we knew that it was not going to be a wise decision to try to bring people back for just a 2.5-week period after Thanksgiving. And we figured that we could devote this time to this work, because it is work that is supposed to be done individually or in small groups with the guidance of the faculty, as opposed to the direct instruction of the faculty. And that really is a key aspect of the pedagogical aims of the practicum: more student ownership of the learning process. And we created this practicum as a vehicle to drive that. From student ownership comes greater student awareness. So the winter projects, the students in a week or two, couple weeks, are going to begin to see the options that they will be able to choose from. These are interdisciplinary projects, so 2 faculty members combine to create a project. There are 2 faculty members representing 2 different academic disciplines. So a English teacher and an art teacher, a math teacher and a language teacher, science teacher and a history teacher. Whatever the combination may be, these colleagues will work together, brainstorm, come up with something that's creative, that they think that will drive the interest of some students, not necessarily all students, and that's fine, but some students are going to find that project to be interesting. I know, Mr. Weber, you did a solar car a couple years ago in a winter project, and that, you know, that was fascinating. All the kids did different versions of the car, and it was really hands-on and so forth. There have been all sorts of different projects that are both individual and small group, but they really are a vehicle for creativity, for critical thinking, and they're guided by the faculty. So before your boys leave for Thanksgiving, they will be registered for a project. They will know what that project is. They will know exactly what they need to do with that project, for that project. There will be a series of due dates for different stages for that project that will be in that 2.5-week period. And then there will be, at the last 3 days of that block of 2.5 weeks, there will be a presentation period, because a big part of the project is being able to communicate, each student communicate what they've learned through this. So the check-ins will be remote. The faculty know that you know, we're not expecting, you know, multiple trips to Hobby Lobby when your boys are at home. I mean, there will be certain things that they're going to need to have, but it's going to be, the projects will be created and designed so that the boys can do them on their own. We don't want you parents to really be a part of this, other than to take pride in what your sons are doing. We're gonna guide them, coach them through this process, and that's going to be relevant for the middle school. They're going to be doing a collective project together. The 9th graders, the 10th graders are going to be doing the winter project, and a good number of the seniors will be doing this interdisciplinary winter project. The juniors will be doing the Global Collaborative Challenge, as well as any postgraduate will be involved in this as well. And this is the second component of this 3-part practicum of civic leadership. And so I'm going to ask Scott Harff to talk a little bit about what we've sort of abbreviated to be known as the GCC, what the objectives of this project are, and a little bit about the process. So, Mr. Harff.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. The GCC, as Mr. Taylor mentioned, is again, this is the 6th year we've done it, but the 5th year that every junior, every postgraduate, and every new senior would have to complete it, because it is a graduation requirement. And it's really the second leg of that practicum for civic leadership that Mr. Taylor mentioned earlier. The goal of it is seemingly very simple. Each team of students, it's a random group of 5 to 6 students that are randomly assigned. They'll pick a question out of a grouping of around 30 to 40 questions that the faculty submit, and then they have to give a 12-minute presentation on their stance. So some of the questions that the groups last year looked at, where I picked 3 of them, we had, how do you solve the epidemic of gun violence in the United States? We had one that was about, are the benefits of a human habitat on Mars worth the cost? And then one that I think has been in almost every GCC rotation that I've been a part of was, how do you solve the problem of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch? So as I like to say, there are these problems that all the smartest adults in the world can't figure out, and we're asking a bunch of 17 and 18-year-old kids to figure out. So we're not looking for the right answer. We're not looking for an answer that is in line with what the faculty think. There's a panel of faculty members. It's normally me, Mr. Mead, and then each team actually gets a faculty advisor who has some sort of background in the question that they've chosen. And they're really presenting to the three of us. Often other faculty will come in who aren't involved in the project at all, but are interested in the topic. And then there's often a pretty big student audience. So back to that discourse and adaptability that we talked about earlier, you're out there in the real world presenting as a team what you've come up with. We've got it to be a pretty formulaic approach to for the kids. So this year it's going to be a little bit more intensive. Like Mr. Taylor mentioned, it's really 2.5 weeks. So it's quick, it's intense. Each group will give a rough draft presentation after week 1, go back, work on it again, rough draft presentation after week 2, and then a final presentation. And it's probably my favorite part of working at Trinity-Pawling, watching the growth that every team goes through. And Mikey Fritz and Christian Strader and Trayvon, when you guys are up, you guys feel free to jump in here, because you guys went through this last year, and I think you guys can attest to, it's scary getting up there for rough draft number 1. And like I said, it's a 12-minute presentation. A lot of those rough drafts are 4 minutes, and then there's some awkward silence, and then rough draft number 2 is like 8 minutes, or it might be 15 minutes, and then it's, oh man, we got some work to do. But like I said, my favorite part of working at Trinity-Pawling is those final presentations are polished. Back to adaptability, these students have adapted. They might be working with guys that they've never met before. They're tackling questions that they've never thought about before, and oftentimes they become so passionate about it. It's, when we do have sit-down meals or we have advisory groups, they're talking to other students about it. They're engaging the faculty with it. So it is an incredibly valuable piece of the Trinity-Pawling education. And I think that I'm really excited for these 2.5 weeks after Thanksgiving, because as I said before, I think that it's going to be the most robust and most intensive GCC period we've had, because normally we've got classes as well. So we're meeting a lot on Saturdays, we're meeting in the evenings, it's this big balancing act, which has its own merits. But this year it's going to be fun, it's going to be intense, and I know Mr. Mead and myself are both very excited for it.
Thank you. And it's going to be different because as Mr. Harff just said, for both the winter projects and the GCC, we've put that in while we're teaching classes. There will be no other classes being taught during this 2.5 week period. So the projects, and we've talked about this as a faculty, they're not going to be the same projects as we've done before, because these are going to be more reflective of the time that we've now devoted to this. So these, there's going to be 50 to 60 hours worth of time that we are going to be asking the students to work on this with our guidance. It's not just sort of go off and do it and then come back in 2 weeks and see how you did. No, we're going to be creating regular checkpoints and redirecting and so forth. So there's going to be instruction during this time period. It's going to be instruction in project-based learning, rather than specific, individual classroom instruction. But the school, as Mr. Harff just said, finds tremendous value in this learning experience for both the winter projects and the Global Collaborative Challenge and the Senior Independent Project. But that's happening concurrently right now, and for some it will continue on into the winter. Getting back to the importance of community. We're fortunate to have Father Lennox here tonight, and the chapel plays such an important role in the life of the community here at Trinity-Pawling. And I was with my advisees, the prefects, and we were having dinner last week, and we were talking about, what do you miss? And I said, well, we miss being in the chapel. And we have not been in the chapel. We've been having chapel, but we're not being in that space. So, Father Lennox, I'd love to turn to you and ask you to talk a little bit about how our social and emotional learning is really going, and what role that plays in sort of building and sustaining and nurturing a healthy community.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Yeah, it's a great question. And indeed, like everyone, I indeed miss being in the chapel, which is, carries with it history and tradition and smells and the sound of the organ and hymns and just a wonderful spirit. So that's a difficult sort of shift away from what we're used to. Some of the benefits, however, of this term have been that we've been able to refocus how we do chapel, how we meet, where we meet. And I think despite the fact that we haven't been able to be inside our actual space, there's been a lot of special moments that have occurred outside. We've been doing chapel twice a week outside, either in the quad or by the flagpole out front. And we've been gathering smaller groups so we can speak specifically to ages and classes. And as a result, I think there's an opportunity in these moments to be outside, to experience nature, to experience the beauty of our campus, and to think about spirituality and the faith that comes with it in light of being in the environment and being in nature. So it's new, it's not our traditional formula, but I think there's a lot of grace and beauty that comes from the way we're able to do chapel right now. As Mr. Weber said, we've had smaller group sessions which enable the boys to open up. I know some of our faculty have led meditations and kind of quiet mindfulness practices that encourage a kind of inner reflection and spirituality. And then in addition to chapel life, I think I've noted that, and I've heard from a number of faculty, that we very often see our students outside more than we would have in the past. So there are gatherings in our Adirondack chairs in between classes. There are opportunities for unique community building events on Saturday, like the Olympic Day or the hilarious softball game last Saturday that brought us all together. So I think in a way we're taking kind of traditional models of spirituality and I'll say religion, and kind of opening them to be experienced in the way we practice our lives in community in the day-to-day. So we're taking something that we did every day in chapel life, and we're putting it into the practice in the day-to-day right now. And I think we're all seeing spirituality and a great sense of positive morality play out, because we're all, I think, doing really well. And I feel there's a great sense of gratitude for the opportunity to learn in person. And so in a way, it's a unique experience to watch it unfold, because I think it's not named specifically in the same way it was in the chapel, but we're doing it. And that's a beautiful gift. And I think so, I think for lack of a better expression, we're practicing what we've preached for 100 years in that chapel. So I'm grateful. And I think the fact that the boys are so happy to be on campus, as is the faculty, there's a general positivity in the air and in interactions, and there's a great use of the campus in a way that I didn't see previously, and it's really fun to behold now.
Right. Well, one of those uses, you wouldn't hear it because you're in your home, but I'm in my office, and we've got a student out there in the lobby who's just improvising on the piano and jamming out all sorts of different music right now. And as you were speaking, he was playing Don't Stop Believin'. So I thought that was particularly appropriate.
Well, we won't stop believing, that's for sure.
Thank you, Father Lennox. We've, one of the things that we've been doing is finding ways to incorporate athletics and wellness into the program. We've really not been able to participate in any interscholastic sports this fall, with the exception of a cross-country meet that we did do last week, that I know Father Lennox was a part of. And we ran against Loomis Chafee, not in person, but we had a similar way. Father Lennox, you describe it. You know the details, but
Yeah, it was a great way, another great way where we're learning how to kind of engage in this new environment. And we had a race on Saturday between Trinity-Pawling and Loomis, and yeah, Coach McDougall had their coach Andrew on the line and sort of FaceTiming in real time, and the gun went off, so to speak, and our guys ran 2.5 laps of the kind of what I call the Beltway on our campus, and Loomis ran on their course, and it was really fun. I mean, I think we do miss that opportunity to engage in athletics and sort of compete with other schools. This was a way that I think the boys really enjoyed, and it was fun to connect with another school and be creative about it and walk away feeling satisfied, having had a good workout and being outside, utilizing the campus, and just competing in a way that illuminates the spirit. So it was really fun. I know I miss those meets and miss competing as well in the environment we're living, but we're creative and adaptive in finding ways to engage and do it in a really bright and positive way. So it was a lot of fun. And I think if I dare say, we beat Loomis, but they did have some restrictions on them with regards to their course and everything. But we're going to do it again, and Coach McDougall's been amazing with kind of connecting us to other schools.
Great. And even when we're not able to compete interscholastically, I mean, the coaches here have been just very creative and dynamic, and have found marvelous ways to bring joy and spontaneity into the various practices. I was watching football the other day, and there was a great tipping drill that they were doing. The kids really got into it, and it just, everybody's attitude has just been really, really positive. I know we've had some questions come in about winter sports, and as you may know, we've been able to during the fall participate and focus on other sports 2 days out of the week. And the ice in the hockey rink has been down for over a week, and I know that's been well received, and we've got kids skating. In terms of interscholastic sports, the Founders League has not made a decision on that. We are talking about it and sort of assessing everything. And we're also speaking internally to sort of say, okay, what may be possible, and what are, what's going on with basketball and hockey and wrestling and squash from the perspective of the virus, and how can it be mitigated, and seeing if there are ways to combine some interscholastic competition into those mitigation efforts. And we don't know yet, but we are exploring that and trying to figure out, what that might look like. But we are working on it. I can't offer you any concrete final decisions on that. I wish I could. But we know it's important. We know it's a valuable part of this experience, as it is in the fall. And everything sort of needs to, fall into our overall sense of what's going to work out best for the, for the well-being of the community. And so we're going to continue to explore it from that perspective. And that's how we've also, proceeded with the whole idea of weekends. Parents may have seen the letter that came out today from Mr. Collins, the Dean of Students, that announced that we are going to begin to accept requests for some weekend leaves. We're going to do it on a case-by-case basis. We certainly don't want to open up the floodgates, but there are various different specific parameters that are in place that are almost identical to the parameters that we're expecting our day students to follow when they leave this campus. And we're going to proceed with with an overall focus on looking at where we are from a health perspective week to week here, where the surrounding area is from a health perspective, and where a potential destination of a student may be from a health perspective with regard to the virus. So all that was outlined in that letter. And certainly if you have any more questions about Saturday weekend leaves, please reach out to Mr. Collins. We've got some students on the Zoom tonight, which is wonderful. So I'm going to ask the students to introduce themselves and say how long they've been here and where they're from, and then I'll fire some questions at you. I'm just going to go around from where you are on my screen. So Mike, we'll start with you, Michael O'Rourke.
How's it going? So I'm Michael O'Rourke, class 2022, so I'm a junior. This is my third year going to Trinity-Pawling. I'm a day student. I live in Wingdale, New York, so about 15 minutes north from the school. Yeah, school year's going great.
Michael Fritz.
Hi, everyone. Michael Fritz. I'm from PA. It's my second year here, and I've been lucky enough to be a prefect this year. So
Good. Trayvon.
My name is Trayvon Monlin. I'm a senior. My last year, been here for 4 years. I'm from New Jersey. I'm a boarder. I live in Cluett. If you ever been on campus, it's the big building in front. There's actually a picture of my face on one of the flags. But yeah, that's me.
And Christian.
Hi, I'm Christian Strader, class of 21. I'm from Wilton, Connecticut. It's my third year here, and I am also a boarder, and school year's going pretty well so far. Yeah.
So Trayvon, I'm going to begin with you since you're a four-year guy. I can't imagine, a different set, a wider spectrum of 4 years than what you've experienced from, showing up as a freshman and then, questioning whether or not we were even going to be able to come back. So what was it like to begin your senior year and knowing it's your culminating year out of 4?
Well, I mean, when last year as a junior, when we went home for winter break, and I heard that we wasn't coming back, at first it was like a celebration. Like I was kind of a little happy because I seen it as it's a longer vacation. And then, so now I'm thinking, I get to sleep in, we're doing school online, this is easy. And then over time, when things start to get more serious, and then I realized I can't even leave the house at this point. And then it starts to get to the point where the seniors who were in my class, they had to graduate online. So now I'm really thinking about, is this going to be my senior year? So that's when the worry came in. But coming back, at first it was kind of like uncomfortable sitting in class and walking around wearing a mask and not being able to talk I can talk, but being around the amount of people that I want to be around, or going into my friend's room, or being close to my friend because I have to stay 6 feet. At first it was kind of like, I didn't really understand like how serious it was. And then I had to take a step back and actually like think about it. And then after that, that's when from there, it's just, if I want to be able to walk across the stage in May and shake everyone's hand and get my diploma, then this is what I'm gonna have to do. So I kind of just dealt with it.
Yeah.
And it's not that bad once you get used to it, honestly.
Well, I look forward to shaking your hand, Trayvon, when you can walk across and
Thank you very much.
be there in person. So, Michael O'Rourke, you're day student, so you've got to have friends from home, and your school experience has got to be a lot different than their school experience. So, what do you hear from your friends at home?
Yeah, so compared to all my friends, all of them are either going like every other day or just fully online. And so like they've always like they all been like, wait, you're going back to school? And then like I tell them like, yeah, it's like 6 days, and then they're like, oh, I wouldn't want to do that. But I go, no, I would much rather go to school the 6 days a week instead of being stuck online, because I was kind of like Trayvon, like at first it was just like, oh, it's just like a longer vacation, it's just going to be a little bit easier online, but it was so much harder because you couldn't go to your extra helps anymore. It was just awkward, trying to get to class on time, trying to be dressed appropriately for that, but being back on campus is a lot better.
Right. So, Christian, you don't live that far away from here, and we talked a little bit about this during the alumni weekend, but what's it like being here every weekend?
I'd say every weekend, it's a bit different compared to most traditional high schools. We have the half-day classes on Saturday, but after the half-day on Saturday, after the half-day classes, that is, it's instantly in the weekend, and it's always something new. It's always something new and creative. It's something fun, and sure, I miss going home. I miss taking those weekends. I miss, doing the fun things I like to do on the weekends. But as Trayvon said, and as the whole class of 21 and the whole student body can speak for, if I have to stay here for, a weekend with the mask on and all these things, and as opposed to, being home the entire time doing online, then, I'd happily do that. So, but I think just a weekend it's quite nice. So yeah.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Fritz, you live in Pittsburgh, so you never were taking any weekends last year. So
No, I was not.
so what do you miss? We're all happy to have everyone back and to be back, but what do you miss that you're not able to do now?
I think the one thing that stuck out almost right away for me, like the day we got to leave our dorms after testing, was probably sitting down at the dining hall. Every day, I remember last year, like almost 12 of us, probably too many for one table. We would all be sitting around one table talking, and I just having one person across didn't feel right, for the beginning. So that was one major thing me to kind of adapt to. But just that sense of community and like almost like a little social event every night, going to eat with the boys. So stuff like that right away was definitely missing, but we've all been getting used to everything. So
I'll throw this out to any of you, or as many of you want to answer. What are things that you've done differently this year, that you've tried this year that you never did before, and maybe never thought you would?
I guess I'll start. I haven't done it yet. I think I'm taking a class in the spring, but I picked up a theater class, and that's if you've met me since my freshman year, that's something that you wouldn't have ever thought that you would see Trayvon's name signed up for. But I mean, after being home and thinking about it, I kind of realized that I'd rather say I at least tried something than by the time I'm 30 and I'm at my reunion and I can't even say that I tried it. I say that I wish I tried. So I kind of just was like, if it's one thing that I can tell myself or any younger kids, it's just to just try things that you don't really feel comfortable with. Like, at least try it instead of saying I should have tried. be like, I did try, and this is what happened. So yeah.
Great answer, Trayvon.
So I'll answer. So normally I would play football during the fall. Just with the football team, just play some football games. But this fall I decided to pick up a new sport of mountain biking, and it's definitely brought like a new like perspective of just doing something different. There's no like routine to get into because we're going different places every day, riding different trails. It's always something new. You have to adapt to what you're going to. So, sometimes you take a fall, but you just gotta get back up and keep on going. So it's definitely brought a different perspective to me.
We've got a bunch of new mountain biking trails on campus too, so I'm glad you're using them, Mikey.
One thing certainly that has changed for me, I've been doing choir since I was in 6th grade in my old school district, and I've continued it here, and it's been going smoothly for the last 5 or 6 years up until this year. Obviously, we can't sing, with the voice projection and air particles and COVID and everything. So we've totally changed our choir curriculum, and we're actually composing our own songs now. We're composing our own music pieces. I am actually on my other tab, I'm working on some homework for Mr. Templeton, putting all our notes in from class and putting it into the songs that we have online. So it's pretty cool experience, and just again learning a whole nother thing, and it's pretty fun, I'm not gonna lie. So yeah.
Great.
For one thing, I'll say that at the beginning of this year that I tried that I would never think of trying was for 2 weeks, about 2 weeks, I actually joined the cross country group for running. Father Lennox can attest to that. And I'm only 5'9", 5'8", so running for me, the long distance is kind of brutal, but it was really good to just kind of see that perspective of something that I've never tried before, and run with a good group of guys and kind of push through something that I might not really like, but it was definitely made me better and something I wanted to do before. So yeah.
Good for you hockey guys to see how grueling cross country can be. So Mr. Burlington, I'm sure there have been some other questions that have come through, and we want to honor the remaining minutes that we have. So anything we haven't covered?
Well, and I was going to also say thank you, boys, for chiming in, and for the parents out there. As we finish off the evening, if you do have any additional questions, please send them through the Q&A. We'll be happy to answer those. So one of the questions, and I know Father Lennox talked a little bit about chapel, and none of us will be here in December when we are normally hosting candlelight. So Father Lennox, Mr. Taylor, have you been, dreaming about anything that we could potentially do that might, bring that spirit of candlelight to life?
Yeah, we will be doing something. We'll be doing something virtually. I mean, I think if you saw the commencement recognition ceremony, we were able to creatively, bring some things together that incorporated some important traditions with some other creativity. So, we've begun sort of the brainstorming process of that. I can tell you that we're going to get students involved in this, because it's going to be there's going to be a winter project component to this. So stay tuned. There will be something, and we will do something creative, and I'm sure Father Lennox candles will be involved.
Sounds great. I'm thrilled to say that we'll be continuing the tradition, and that's a service that has been done for decades, and we'll carry on that tradition in a new fashion this year, and look to the future and being back in the space. But stay tuned, and we'll look forward to celebrating lessons and carols with everyone come December.
Great. And just to piggyback on that 2.5 week period, I know you mentioned it before, but there will not be classes in session, correct? It will be, the time is used over those 2.5 weeks for these projects and the GCC.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. I think as we continue through, I wanted to just do a quick plug for admissions. We obviously, as I mentioned before, we're hosting our Why Trinity-Pawling next week. And it's one of our virtual open house. So for all of you, the parents out there, for whoever's on this phone call, or this Zoom, please, word of mouth is our biggest advantage. And the experience that you're having with your sons at Trinity-Pawling, please get the word out. And I know that, there are, even with some of the new students that have arrived this year, they've already had friends inquire into Trinity-Pawling. And we've had many different virtual Zooms with prospective families for next year. It's been really interesting with this whole new format. We're not having the normal visits that we normally would, but we're also having 90-minute conversations with parents because, they have the time and the interest. And so we're doing virtual interviews, virtual Q&A sessions. And then come November and December, when the boys end up leaving for the break, we will open up campus and have visitors in a more deliberate way. So, please, as I said, get the word out, and for that open house next week, but also for just getting in touch with us moving forward. And the other thing I'm going to do before I hand it back to Bill, is also I'm throwing a chat. It's Mrs. Foster sent me the link to the pick a time, so that I just put into the chat window. And I will also say this, and I got approval. If you're having trouble with pick a time, get in touch with your advisor, schedule the call or the Zoom with your advisor. Even though we'd love to have all of the information in pick a time, if it's too much of a trouble or an issue, just send an email to your advisor and say, let's pick a time, literally pick a time, what that fits for everybody. So I just wanted to throw those two things out and pass it back to you, Mr. Taylor.
Thank you. I want to thank each of you for being on this Zoom tonight. Special thanks to the students. Thank you. You were excellent, and the faculty for your creative, wonderful comments and sharing your perspective. But to the parents, thank you for your time tonight. But also thank you for your trust. Thank you for your support of the school. We could not be doing this without the partnership we have with you, and we're grateful for that partnership. And I wanted to end with a really exciting announcement. You all have undoubtedly been hearing about our Pride Giving campaign for the parents, and we've got a big Giving Day scheduled for October 20th. We are, of course, aiming for 100% participation from parents. And this year, with all the additional expenses that we've had related to COVID, our needs are great. And the wonderful announcement I want to share is that we've had a parent that has stepped up and really has said, I'd love to be a part of helping lead the parents and in helping the school, meet some of their goals. And we've received an incredible match of slightly over $100,000 in a gift from an anonymous parent that is designed to be used as a match, a one-to-one match, if we can, if we can get that gift, if we can get the match. So our goal is to shoot for $100,000, and that will be matched $1 for $1. and so we're often to proceed that that goal. So so collectively, we hope we can get there, and really want to thank that anonymous parent that has put forward that match, and it's the largest match offer that that has been made in the school's history, and so we certainly want to honor that and see if we can succeed in that match. So you'll be hearing more on that, but know that all that support goes right back into the experience that that we're able to offer our students and your sons. So we're grateful for your support, your trust, and your overall engagement and partnership with the school. We couldn't do it without you. Thank you.
Mr. Taylor, I think nearly 20,000 was just committed today to that match. So we're a week away, and we're on our way. So I ditto that. Thank you to everyone. So it is 8:06, and we try our hardest to keep these webinars within 70 or so minutes, and we've done that. I know that there will probably be more questions that come up in the next couple of days, but you can always reach out to the admissions office, to our dean's office, Dean of Residential Life and Dean of Students, Mr. Collins and Mr. Keel. So if you have anything that comes up, please do not hesitate to reach out. Thank you again so much for joining us tonight. As I said, this was one of our largest webinars that we've hosted, and it obviously means a lot to all of our families to have such a great start to the school year, and that your boys are doing well. And Parents Weekend is one of those great times to hear about that. And so, as we've said, please register on Pick a Time or reach out to your advisor for those meetings. And as a parent asked, I'll just say it out loud. Yes, we want your son to be a part of those meetings. So the Zoom invite will go to the family, but it will also go to the son. And I know my advisee is not so happy that he has a 7:30 in the morning on Saturday meeting, but I promised him a cup of coffee and a donut to get up at 7:30, and we can blame his parents for that time, but it's okay. We're going to be there, and we're going to be bright and cheery. So please pick a time and schedule your meeting with your advisor. But as always, thank you. We wish you the best. Stay happy, healthy, and safe. And on behalf of this great panel, boys, thank you so much. Have a great night, and we look forward to seeing you soon. So thanks again.